Okay, I'm live. Just give me a sec there, folks. Going to wait for Tim to join us. He's definitely here and he's on time for sure. And just like I say, just sent the link for him to join me. And now I'm going to share, as I typically do, these links. And actually, I got a little announcement to make there, folks. I've been invited to an alternative social media platform. And I got to tell you, I'm liking it so far. And it is by invite. And I hear Tim's getting on there now. Let me just bring Tim on here before I what's going on, Tim? How you doing, my friend?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, can I ever?
I
Mighty
can't
loud,
hear you
actually,
for some reason. What's going on here?
Let me turn my volume down.
Oh, there we go. Volume is down. That's why.
Oh, yeah, I know. That tends to happen periodically. Mine on. I don't know about you. Do you have Windows 10, Tim?
No, I'm a Mac guy.
Oh, good for you, because my Windows 10, I don't know what it is, and I try everything to try to stop the updates. But when they do the big updates, the little ones are no big deal. But on Windows 10, when they do the updates, my freaking audio settings, everything gets all reset to the default, and then I got to go back in afterwards and readjust them. Anyways, I was just mentioning there, Tim. By the way, thanks for joining me today. Like I said, I was looking. I put the feeler out there for a couple people because I figured this is something that, I mean, it's already a couple days have passed. People have been talking about it. It's definitely something that I think, like I say, no matter where you come at it, right? Whether you're one of those people that are labeled far right, far left, anyone that's disenfranchised with the system or democracy, which, yes, of course, that includes libertarians, anarchists, right? Basically anyone with a pulse and actually has critical thinking skills. But this is something, like I say, is an area. And of course, you being obviously, not just a libertarian, but, leader of the Libertarian Party of Canada, I thought who better than to invite on for this topic of discussion than none other than Tim Moen, because this is something, like I say, I fully expect, especially because I reported, I don't know if you realize, but I reported earlier on, I'm not sure if you're privy to this, but yeah, it's not just the Democrats down in the U.S. that have been talking about, messing with the election processes in their country, right? We know that CBC, I think it was the National Post, a few publications in Canada has already reported on the fact that the Trudeau Liberals kind of want to start messing around with the election and how that unfolds as well. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Are you a Timmer?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that anyways. But yeah, so they've been kind of, like I say, I covered that in a past video. And it was even on live stream. But yeah, they've been talking about messing with I guess they've seen some success, right? Right. So
yeah.
As the followers tend to do, right? If they see an area of success, well, that looks like where they're going to gravitate to. But anyways, like I say, before I get to that, what I did want to mention even before that, which was something that just came up yesterday, was, I don't know if you've heard of this. Have you ever heard of a website? It's pretty new to me. I'm learning new about this stuff, but I was invited. It's one of those things you got to get invited on. And they set me up with the verified, once I signed up, and gave me the pro badge. Ooh, I'm a pro, man. But anyways, have you ever heard of Friendster.io?
Friendster? No, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the truth, and neither did I. And I've been there's so many new platforms, as you're well aware of yourself, right? It's like I'm already on so many now, and actually that's a great thing. This competition, I'm loving the fact that there's too much competition these days. But I've been kind of leery in some of the other ones because I don't know, who's behind them, if they're going to get shut down. Anyways, but this particular one, the thing that kind of intrigued me was the person that sent the invite was someone from Parler, apparently. So maybe someone's connected to Parler and have figured out a way to set up an alternative platform that maybe won't get taken down. Either way, like I say, it was offered to me. I took advantage of the opportunity. I got to tell you, I'm actually pretty impressed. Let me bring it up here actually right now. I'm going to share it on the screen here. Okay. Just to show you, it's actually pretty good. It's got everything you could want, because I definitely recognize we're definitely going to have to gravitate. Never retreat. That's why I've never left any of the dominant platforms. I'm not retreating. Well, except Twitter, but Twitter's a dumpster fire. And actually, I got to admit, I went before the 30 days was up. I actually did go back and reactivate it. I'm not tweeting, but I thought, I don't want to leave that off the table entirely, just in case. I'm one of those kind of guys, right? But I'm not going to be using it too much because Twitter does seem to be a dumpster fire. But anyways, let me see. Oh, it's in the night mode. Maybe I should bring this up. Actually, can you even see this? Let me see. Yeah, you can see that. But it's in dark mode. I should bring that into where do you change the settings here? Actually, what's this here? Got it. I don't even know what the hell that was. Oh, that's why, because I was getting ready to share. Sorry. Okay, now I get it. I was getting ready to share this So as you can see, now you're going to be able to find this on Friendster as well. That's why it was in that. So here's the site. Actually, before I do that, let me share on Gab. Close that one up. So, and Minds, of course. On oh, did you hear about Bitcoin too? By the way, I got a million things on my mind right now, Tim.
I know.
Bitcoin,
Yeah.
44 grand. Dang it.
Yeah. Thank you, Elon Musk, I guess.
Right? You gotta like that guy. I'm liking that guy more and more every day, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I need the Starlink, Elon. Hook me up, buddy. There's all kinds of New Brunswickers around here getting their damn internet connection to sit and watch Netflix. I need it for more than that. Right. But it's funny though, there's 10,000 people who set up, and in this little tiny province of New Brunswick, I'm already seeing guys uploading their YouTube videos. Like there's a guy that's probably about 25 minutes away from me. He's all set up, loving it. He uploaded his first video to it, and I gotta tell you, it looked great. I would love to, because if I had that, I'd be full on 1080p 60 frames per second. I'd full on, man. You know what I mean? I'm going to try that.
How did he get signed up on that? Is there like a wait list, or is
that's the thing?
lottery?
That's the thing. There is an email list, and I haven't got any response from the person as of yet. I did, not this person, but another person who's his brother got hooked up, another New Brunswicker. And I said, would you reach out to and ask him, like, how the hell? Because I put my name on the email list. But apparently these guys must have done it long before I did or something, because I am on the list. You can go to Starlink and you'll see where you can type in your, like, just give them an email and then they'll pick, I guess it's a random probably type of thing, right? But anyways, I'm really excited to know that that's happened. Anyways, like, so this Friendster, so as you can see, it has the typical stuff, videos, photos, followers, following, likes, groups.
Yeah, it looks just like Facebook.
Yeah, really easy to navigate. But the thing that I always worry about and think about, because as someone that likes to live stream a lot, is I hate having to incorporate all these different services. Although I will say I'm a real fan of StreamYards, and they keep rolling out stuff time and time again. Actually, today there's another new feature now. Actually, last stream I mentioned it too, is now you can not just share your screen, but I can share like even video files that are already saved on my computer now. So now I can use the share, and then it goes right into my computer and share whatever the hell I want on there. So that's really cool. So I'm definitely a fan of StreamYards, and I'm keeping it. But as you can see with this platform Friendster here, and I didn't realize this until you actually click, because I was looking, it's like nothing's there yet. But if you click on the what's happening, it actually does give you the option that you can live stream. It's right there.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? You just hit live and you can actually go live. Now, I haven't tried it yet. I have to test the waters out a little bit. And as you can see, like I say, they set me up with I'm already verified. Ooh, I'm a pro. Although I think I should get that switched over. Well, if you get one, Tim, make sure to not pro, expert, right? We need the term expert, right? Because apparently that's the only way you get any cred these days, right? But anyways, but yeah, like I say, so I'll bring this up. I thought it's pretty cool. Seems like a decent enough site. And if it's a free speech platform, and maybe some people are gravitating to it, but that's the thing I also understand too, is there's so many of them. I get people all the time saying, hey, follow me over on Telegram or follow me over here. It's like, I've got so many accounts and so many passwords now. I'm gonna have to write a book just to keep all the passwords, I think. You know what I mean? But anyways, I've been rambling on a little bit too long. But what'd you think there, Tim?
I mean, it looks good. It looks just like Facebook, which is, I think, something in its favor. Because I've been on a few of these sites, and even Parler, and it seemed clunky, and I couldn't really figure out how to navigate it. And like you say, you get kind of burnt out trying to figure out each platform and how to use it optimally and that sort of thing. And so I just stick with the ones that got me to the dance, so to speak. But I guess it's time to start looking. And our days are numbered. We're terrorists now.
Yeah. So you're aware of that too, right? That's some Proud Boys, a terrorist organization. Out of all the, like, to me, in terms of all the groups or franchises that were, standing up against the status quo, it's like if you had asked me, like even just 6 months ago, what would, if in Canada, what would be one of the first ones that would be put on the labor or the terrorist label, right? I'd be like, I remember Lemieux, they're out of Quebec, right? And I think they painted them as some Nazi type group, right? Far right Nazi group. And then there's the Northern Guard. There's a few of them, I guess, but no, it's a bunch of polo shirt wearing, right? It's like, really though? That's who the terrorists are these days, huh? That sends a big old message. That tells you where they want to place the target. Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of time, I suspect, before libertarians are put in the same camp, right? Because look, no one's denying that there aren't some bad actors in the Proud Boys that wear that shirt. I've met a few Proud Boys in my time. They're all decent guys. None of them would ever engage in violence. They might show up at a rally and protect people or something like that at the most. But sure, there's a few of them that are out there looking for trouble. And they're members of a group called the Proud Boys. They might also be members of the Republican Party, or they might be, so to paint them, to say they're Proud Boy, well, why not say, well, Republicans are terrorists? They're just like a lot of Antifa terrorists, if you want to call them that, running around breaking windows, are members of the Democratic Party. Are we then going to say that the Democrats are terrorists and ought to be put on a terrorist group because members of that party? So it's a little silly. But I assume it's just a matter of time before, well, we already heard in the US, was it Brennan or whoever, the CIA or FBI guy, put libertarians on the same list as white nationalists and some of these other extremist groups. But the thing to me that is the most ironic is here we have the biggest terrorist organization known to man making a list of terrorists. I mean, good grief. Could you get any more ironic than that? It's yeah.
It
you
is
just have to shake your head.
It really, to me, and the part that I've never understood when they talk about I mean, obviously as someone that would had my entire career destroyed because of collective punishment, and even long before that, and obviously subsequent to that, is I've never been any fan of these kind of collective punishments. Anyways, to me, I don't care what fucking group you belong. I don't even care if you say you belong to ISIS. Did you commit a crime, right? Did you fucking do something that's an actual criminal act? And if you have, then by all means, punish, right, as it sees fit by any normal standard in terms of if some does something wrong. Yes, but there are already laws on the book to deal with whatever anyone.
But Bennett, wrong think is a crime now. Wrong think is a crime. Exactly. It hurts people. It it's egregious, and so this is what's coming, right? This is very clear. I mean, AOC was calling for lists of conservatives after the election. We've got this Times article, which is just, nakedly the cathedral speaking out loud what they used to say in quiet. They're just unashamed now about the collusion and corruption that they engage in. And they all think it's for the greater good, I'm reading The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich right now. And, some of the similarities are a little bit startling, to be quite honest.
Striking, huh? It's like, damn. Yeah. Read that totally. Anyways, not exactly, but yeah, I'm with you. And actually, when you talk about the libertarian thing, and I never brought it up because I was hoping that as much as they would love to, because I'm right there with you, like as the years have gone by, and I've seen how it's typically the far right, but I have seen where it's, whether it's far right or conservative extremists or whatever they're labeling, they do tend to typically, not all, mind you, but those who represent the established media do tend to typically, more than not, include libertarians in that, which has always fucking irked me anyways, because it's always driven me nuts. And this anyways, when they constantly try to label libertarians, because as you know, a libertarian to me, it's like, no, I just don't believe in, and the authoritarian mommy or daddy. To me, it's like I'm an independent person. I'm a sovereign human being, and I can think critically about both sides of the political divide or psychological, whatever the hell you want to break that line down to. But it drives me nuts that they always did, and I kind of did suspect. And of course, then we go back to like you were even referencing Hitler, right? It seemed to be very, very important for those who represent the establishment to constantly hammer away at the narrative that Hitler was a right-winger guy, right? And I always found that weird too, because even when I didn't know too much about Hitler, other than what the typical average citizen would know, right? But until you delve into it, I had no idea about the man's history, who he was. But as you learn about him, or I've never read Mein Kampf entirely, but I've listened to people who have, and listened to their commentary and stuff now. And the fact that, he was a socialist himself. The party that he actually brought him into power was the National German. So it's like, I don't know why they say this nationalism, other than, I guess, the only thing I guess that they can suggest why they keep hammering away with the right-wing label is, I guess, if you care about you have an in-group preference for your kind, I guess, is there. So that to me is like, if you're a lefty, is that, and actually that might make sense if you actually think about it from the leftist perspective, right? Because the leftists don't have any fucking loyalties to anything as far as I'm concerned. So I guess the reason why they try to paint or stereotype people who actually, think about it. The modern leftists today and Hitler, if they were sit down and didn't fucking label each other who they were, they'd be like, oh yeah, no, I'm with you right there. Until you get to the point where in-group preference kind of thing. It's like, well, we're actually with you. Actually, I would think they would probably agree with them, but it's like, that's a terrible narrative. I think the left, a lot of the people on the left would actually agree about the in-group preference and narrative, but they'd be like, oh, that's a terrible, no, you got to change that up. That's bad messaging, right? I think it's the biggest thing. So as far as I'm concerned, this libertarian and right wing, what it is they want to be able to rewrite history just like they did after World War II. And I think they are, like you're alluding to, setting up the scenario where it is anyone who challenges, basically, I don't care if you want to call it left or right, to be honest with you, but anything that's authoritarian collective, they want to paint and stereotype anyone who's against authoritarian collectivism as now like right wingers or libertarians, because they recognize that we are the true threat to their dominance and their power. And so they're going to, of course, if you're a threat to people who want to rule over you, of course they want to make you out to be the bad guy. But I just have a difficult time that when they do actually get to that point is because once you start throwing out that term libertarian as loosely and using I don't like, how would you, I'm even trying to think right now, trying to even the most corrupted lawyer, how do you draft, right, legislation or even an article and claim that libertarians, people are against violence, right?
Yeah.
How do you claim that people are literally against? Because the one thing that is the core part of terrorism is you have to be advocating for violence, right? So it's like,
I'll tell you how they're going to do it because this happened to me early on in my, let's call it a political career, not much of a career, but when I was running for Parliament the first time, we put out a bunch of memes. And then there was this cop killing in Moncton, New Brunswick. I think the guy killed 3 cops. Yeah. And my face was all over the media as being the inspiration behind this cop killer. Yeah. He had a meme on his page that had my face on it that said, I watched a movie once where only the cops and the police had firearms. It was called Schindler's List. Okay. So this language that we're talking in right now, Bennett, where we're comparing things that are going on now to the rise of an evil regime like the Third Reich. I see in some of the comments here, someone talking about democide, right? Where our governments have killed more of their own people than anything else. And I mean, okay, if these things are going on right now, Bennett, isn't it legitimate then that we can use violence to protect ourselves from these things? Isn't that what this cop killer did? Isn't that what, these fringe libertarians that are going to go off and do bad things are going to do? And so that's the thing that we have to be prepared for. That is what we're going to, and that was the most miserable week of my life. I was questioning everything I was doing. I was wondering whether I in some way inspired this guy, and do I have to tone down my rhetoric? Do I need to get out of politics to save my career? Like it was not a good place to be in, but that's the kind of thing that's going to happen to each and every one of you calling yourselves a libertarian before too long. And so we have to be ready for that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting because I remember the whole incident. Of course, as a New Brunswicker, it was in our face, and the gentleman's name was Justin Bork. I remember how that whole played out, and I know they were saying about online social media, but I don't remember your name being brought up. But that's weird because why would they try to? Maybe he was a fan of you, or did he follow your?
I think he followed me. He might have. He shared one of my memes, anyways, right? So there, and the angle, like the reporters were trying to pitch. And here's the thing that saved me: I was friends with some of these reporters. They liked me. I was a nice guy, and they thought I was kind of novel. And when they got to know me, they were like, "Hey, this guy's actually kind of." That protected me, because then when they called me and said, "Hey, our corporate headquarters are trying to cut this angle that libertarianism is the inspiration behind terrorism," Do you have any comments? You know, that they just basically published the press release. I gave them word for word, which was nice of them. They could have gone hard in the paint on me,
Right.
because there were some other stories I remember at the same time. I think there was a shooting in Vegas, in a Walmart or something like that, and they tried to pin that again on libertarians. And so there was this narrative going around in the news at the time that libertarians are responsible for this extremist violence, and we are inspiring this stuff. And so, I mean, that's a lot of heat to face, to take on, and it's not much fun to be in that place. So, you know, we need to be ready for that and have strategies in place to deal with that kind of thing.
For sure. And actually, that is one area where I'll say, and of course, I'm not looking, and I've never looked, right, but there is this is a reason why it is so important. And I think people are going to start to really come to understand this at this point in time. You and I have known this for years, and why you do need a space, right? I love, like I said, I love putting myself out there in the public square online, even in places with people who are just want to insult me. But there are times, and I think that time is now, where it's probably had been that time for some time now, where yes, we need spaces where there are not just the platforms, but are willing to protect our freedom of speech, and where we can have some way to assemble, to get together, to discuss, to talk about issues that are important, where we're constantly not going to constantly have everything that we say or we do misconstrued, misrepresented, and constantly being used as a means to punish us for nothing more than what you were suggesting earlier is a little bit of a wrong thing, right? Which is, I don't consider a wrong thing by any stretch, but as we know that there are lots of people who do. But yeah, I think we really do have to make sure that we're wise in everything we do now, because there's definitely a target. I personally, I actually find it weird. I think for me, I think the best strategy for the people that don't like me, I think it's just to fucking make it so that I just don't have a voice much, right? So there's very few people, rather than personally attack. I don't get too much of the personal attacks like from anyone. The media, of course, I don't actually get out too much in the public space too much either. So maybe that's the reason behind that. I don't know, but I definitely feel that there are things that are taking place, and I don't like to get into speculation. That's the other thing too. If I can't prove anything, there are things that happen all the time where it's like, man, that seems really, really weird. Like even things in terms of my service, my internet service provider. But once again, if I can't prove anything, I try not to speculate. But it does seem that the walls are closing in, which is why it's really important that we not only push back against this stuff, but have places where we can, turn and pivot to. And, this Friendster, Gab's already, to me, one of the great platforms. And now that they've got, their servers up and running, and you have options now in terms of even you can live stream from there. You got Minds, of course, and all these other platforms that are giving us the option, because I definitely see, and especially when Zuckerberg, or not Zuckerberg, but Chan there, the Canadian representative for Facebook, basically he came out and said, listen, we're going to need you to regulate us. So they just want to become the new establishment. I mean, the minute any corporation, right, says, we don't know how to manage our business, we need you to tell us how to do it. Well, you know what the reason behind that is, right? No sane individual is going to do that unless it's for a specific reason. And we know what that reason is, right? So they don't have to lose billions of dollars in lawsuits, right? Because I think they see the writings on the wall. They just want, if there's going to be regulation.
Well, it's not only that, but it's classic corporatism, right? I mean, like one of the audience members says here, we're living under fascism right now. I mean, this is exactly what Mussolini envisioned with his corporatocracy, right? I mean, I can't remember the exact word, but he loved the idea of corporatism, where we have crony capitalism, where a select few, the aristocratic class, get to own businesses, and they're intermingled with the state, and the state helps them, kind of guides them and gives them direction that's in the national interest. This is what populists on the left and the right want right now. This is what we actually have right now. So it's funny to me that they're against the thing, they're begging for more of the same. They complain about it, but then they beg for more of it. And this is what we're facing right now. And like Keith here, one of our candidates in Penticton, said, one of the scariest things for me is that we've had multiple provincial elections in this country and soon a federal election. We've been kept from our families and friends. There's no opportunity for discourse or discussion except Facebook posts. The lack of human interaction is a scary path. Absolutely. this is a scary path. I mean, this is where they can control everything. I mean, this is literally like the Matrix right now. They've got us in these hermetically sealed pods where, we order food and everything we consume is online from Amazon, an approved retailer that kind of funnels into our homes where we consume it. And our senses and everything is caught up in this virtual world that you and I are conversing on right now. It's a digital world. I mean, this is as close to the Matrix as anything. And, it's got to be approved by our masters as well, right? I mean, Facebook is playing in a sandbox where it gets incentivized to enforce these progressive policies. And so what we're seeing is constructed by the establishment, by the cathedral. And now, this whole conversation started out with the Times article. I mean, the cathedral is basically just out honestly talking about the game they're playing and putting it out there as if it's a virtue, as if it's a good thing, as if this is a wonderful thing. Isn't it wonderful how we're corrupting democracy or whatever? And protect, they call it fortifying or securing it. And then they go on to talk about all the shady things they did to do that. Because we can't have democracy without the centralized controllers controlling it. Right. It's just unbelievable. And people don't even think twice,
It's wild. Actually, we're definitely going to get to it. Just let me read a couple more of the comments there from the chat, and then we'll definitely get into the article. Because there's some crazy shit in that. I've read it now I got halfway through today. I read it full one time, and then I went through halfway through it again. And there's some crazy shit in there. But anyway, I just wanted to mention John Hicks there. By the way, I don't know if you would mind or not, though. I kind of put the feeler out there to even John there if he did eventually want to join into the stream, or he might just want to contribute on the outside there. But it's up to you either way. But anyways, so John's saying when self-defense against unlawful action by government is lawful, but the option undeniable against one's own interest, how do you defend against the accusation we're promoting violence? Well, that's the issue, right? And these people, I mean, this is the one thing that even myself, and once again, I got to go back to my own personal circumstance and situation when I was going through the course through my own situation in terms of my impaired driving. And like I say, all this stuff is hard for people to understand until you've had it right in your fucking face. Until you've had it in your face, people are so ignorant. And I'll admit, I was completely ignorant that, I mean, you could say whatever the hell you want in legalese, and you can literally, I mean, the system is set up now that you could say black is white, up is down. It just however you want to manipulate the language, and I guess the insiders who are part of the legal class, it's all easy to completely forgo anything that, I mean, even a small child would understand the concepts of liberty. But now in the judges or the judicial system, it's just so overwhelming to these people that have been in these positions for decades, and they no longer have this simple grasp or understanding of what justice is, freedom. I can't believe for one fucking minute that is the case, other than the fact, like I say, everything has been set up and gamed that benefits one particular individual, and it's the individual that pivots towards the collective. If you are the kind of person that will put your bow, get on your knees, kiss the ring, or do whatever, the sky is the fucking limit for you, no matter how competent you are in your position or your prowess, right? It's even if you're ugly as fuck. I mean, come on, now it's not against fat shaming. You could be the most ugliest fat fuck on the planet with stretch marks and fucking cellulite till as far looks like fucking blue cheese, right? But doesn't matter. Everything is promoted and everything now. Like I say, I was listening to another CBC thing today when they were talking about BIPOC. I heard it one other time. It's it's Black, Indigenous, people of color. It's like the fucking weird how these people are all trying to create this massive collective, and what it is they need a big enough group, they need a big enough collective, they need a big enough army, so they're willing to recruit off. But what I would say to the people who are, whether you're Black, Indigenous, or a person of color, LGBTQ, I just want to tell you right now, as one of these evil, terrible, straight heterosexual white middle-aged fucking men, let me just tell you right now, and then later on you can come back and say, damn, I wish I had to listen to you about it. Is these people that you're trusting, they are exactly and precisely projecting what they label people like me or Tim as, that's exactly what they are. So the fact that if any of you are watching this video or this stream, I'm just going to tell you, not for my benefit, not a fucking for Tim's benefit, not for your own benefit. At the very least, you might want to have a little bit of questions towards these people who are constantly fucking stroking your ego and bringing you into their tent. Do you really think they're doing it because they love you so much? Do you really fucking believe that? Because if you do, I got to tell you, got some oceanfront property down in Arizona, top-notch stuff, and I want to sell it to you. Right? It's like, it's just, it drives me nuts that anyone would believe this fucking shit, right? But
yeah,
is what it is.
Well, I don't actually think they do believe it. I mean, I think it's pretty nakedly obvious that that Trudeau and these progressives use minorities as tokens. Like I know that minorities, know this, like I've heard it over and over again from them when I'm campaigning. Like these progressives swoop in here, they want to get they're looking for, one lady said they were looking for dead and dying Indians and they were trying to just show their culture and their dance and their stuff, but they didn't want any of that. They were looking for a way that these people's lives suck so that they can make it better for them. And so, I mean, a lot of these minorities, I think they get implicitly that the left is atrociously racist. Like they look at them as if they're little children and they're the paternal people that are going to come in there and say, what a terrible way to view other people, by the way, just because of their immutable characteristics. I think these people get that the left is extremely racist. But when you're getting handouts, there's kind of a symbiotic relationship. You play along with the game. You tell the emperor that, your clothes look beautiful, even when he's not wearing any clothes, because it benefits you. Right. And, so I don't, I give them a little bit of credence there, but.
Yeah. Anyways, so I know I tend to go on a little bit tirade, as you probably, and anyone else that watches my stream is aware of.
Not you.
Yeah, no, I know, right? But no, but this stuff, it does. It really freaking, I'm constantly, and the wife even says to me, and I get it, because like, even if you were to say, it's not like I haven't heard it before. She's like, how do you still get shocked after all this time? And you know what, to tell you the truth, I don't even know how I still get shocked, but I don't know. There's a part of me that seems to think, or at least I guess maybe hope that most people would at least try to figure some way, or because what it is I'm pretty good, right? I'm pretty good at putting myself in other people's positions or perspective. And I think if I was black, indigenous, or anyone was talking to me like that, it's like, oh, you fucking patronizing. Would you get the fuck away? I tell you that I would rather someone just come out and call me an asshole, right? That would, I'd feel much more respected than someone just constantly patronizing me in such a way. But I get what you're saying. And this is the part where you're probably correct in your assumption that I would imagine if you were to sit down, and head off to a community. And that's the thing with me being back in New Brunswick. Now I don't even have any real ways to, because not too many black. Well, there's indigenous, I guess. So I could definitely talk to some of those folks.
Well, I mean, if you or I are being patronized, right? Like being talked down to, like we're little kids or something, and that we always need a hand and that we're always a victim. I mean, it's very easy for you or I to notice that and be just like disgusted by it. And so I just assume these people get it too, that they know that they're being talked down to and looked at like they're little children. And if there's enough money on the line, and I lived in squalid conditions because the government stuck me on a reservation and took away my property rights and my ability to get at the resources under my feet because the crown claimed them, and made me live in a socialist hellhole, I might play along with their game to survive and to get some money. And I might, this is all part of the system as far as I can tell.
Yeah, you're right. And that's one area where I do have a problem with is I keep holding other people to the standards I hold myself to. And I realize that's where I fail most of the time.
Right. Well, but I look at it this way. I just assume, okay, in what way would I be different if I were in the exact same situation as these people? That in fact, that's what put me on the path to libertarianism in the first place. Is like, if I were just a regular German in the 30s, what would have stopped me from being a Nazi? Like, how would I have gone against the grain? How would I have stopped from doing evil just because that was the prevailing mob mentality at the time? And they were making all these arguments, and how would I go against the grain and do what's right and be a moral hero despite everything else? And that's how I try to look at things. So I put myself in the shoes of these people that are behaving in a particular way, and I go like, okay, well, what would be different for me, and what kind of environmental pressures would be on me, or incentives that would make me behave this way. And you know, that's served me fairly well, because I think it's revealed some blind spots in my own life. I'm sure I still have some more.
Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, maybe that should be a focus for all of us. And I hate to do this, because this is the part that drives me nuts, because I hate catering to any special interest. But I'm also, at times like this, I just can't help but think maybe, but at the same time, it might not come across as the best thing. But I don't know, maybe we libertarians or anarchists or should try maybe be more proactive. Maybe, I don't know. Once again, I'm just thinking out loud in terms of reaching across. Now, I will personally say that I even still, I don't know more, that Facebook page, I'm still on there, and I still see them post stuff all the time. Because I even back when they started that, I want to use my libertarian, understanding and philosophy and principles to help explain to these people that, you don't have to, rail against other Canadians. It's, your problem is government. It's these people who are keeping you down. And so I've already researched some of these people in these groups in the past. And maybe I should start focusing on that as well. Because I think that is a major aspect is the reason why the narrative can resonate and dominate the people so many times is because people do tend to self-segregate and kind of isolate themselves from the others, right? So not me, there are people like myself who are like, I don't give a shit personally, but I realize that is kind of normal. So maybe if you're not willing to step out, maybe you got a whole lot of people who are actually right in the position that you and I are today, willing to completely go toe to toe against all this top-down authoritarianism, but you're constantly thinking that, but those people want to cause harm to me. That, whereas if we kind of try to maybe reach across those divides, and if we are the ones that are leading by example, placing ourselves in even more vulnerable position for doing so or whatever, maybe that might actually be something that maybe might be conducive, because that, I believe, the only chance we have in life today in a modern democracy is it's not just people that share your skin color. We need people, anyone that has critical thinking skills, and anyone who cares about freedom. It has to be, and like I say, to me, I don't usually reach across divides because I don't look at people based on, compartmentalized skin color, what's between their legs. But maybe because our opponents seem to constantly be focusing on that fucking shit, right? But they seem to be it seems to be a beneficial tactic, right?
Yeah. I will warn you that, I think going to activist groups and trying to reach across the aisle is probably not going to be very fruitful. But I think that there's a large, quiet majority in these places that aren't part of the victim industrial complex. That are just putting, like in Fort McMurray, there's just a lot of First Nations people that put their head down, stay out of the fray, and go to work and, take advantage of the opportunities that are there for them. And I think a lot of this stuff is BS, and it's undercutting their very ability to make a living. And, but they're quiet because they don't want to, it's tall poppy syndrome. They don't want to get hacked down. And so those are the people that you need to appeal to. Like, it's very difficult to go against your incentives. If you're making a living out of the victim industrial complex, getting people to challenge, like they're not in it for any kind of, sanctimonious incentives. They're in it for their own self, for their own survival, their own flourishing, and your narrative is going to threaten that. So I don't think you'll have much luck there. But I think, like Keith McIntyre says, I can introduce you to my favorite Harvard-educated First Nation entrepreneur who happens to be a civil libertarian who works out of my co-worker space in West Bank First Nation. There's a lot of those folks out there. I find when you actually go to these communities and engage with them, and West Bank is, that whole area there, the Okanagan, there's some great First Nations there. Chief Louis, very capitalist, he's got property rights on his reserve and has strong work ethic, and people are able to leverage their own homes against education to build businesses, to do all sorts of things. Much different community than the places where they're run like a socialist hellhole, or they're basically run like ethno states. I asked my buddy once on a First Nation reserve, well, why don't you wouldn't it be better if you guys owned your houses, and then they'd be better looked after? You could use it for education or this or that.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, I see your point. But he said, you know, we can't have outsiders coming in here. And if you owned your house, you might be able to sell it to an outsider. And so this is, if you want to see what an ethno state looks like, and why, you know, you need the state to basically control property. And this is the kind of thing you get from it. Just go to your local First Nations and you can see what cultural preservation by state looks like. It looks like hell, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Anyways, like I say, so yeah, that's definitely the kind of stuff, and we could definitely delve into that for probably the next hour or so. But since the whole point of this stream was to talk about the secret history of the shadow campaign that saved the 2020 election, maybe we should start doing that. But anyways, like I say, but anyways, thanks again there, Tim, for joining me for this, because I did find this to be something that, like I say, most people are going to want to at least learn something about this. I'm sure other people have, and listen to not just my perspective. That's why I like to bring other people on as well, like yourself, and kind of bring your own ideas and concepts. Because even like we've been talking so far, you're bringing up things that's helping me to think on the fly in a much more critical manner, and I appreciate that as well. Anyway, so let me just start out real quick here, folks. So this was contributed by Molly Ball, and it's a very, very long article. And obviously, Time Magazine. It was published on February 4th of 2021. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just going to read a little bit of here, and then we kind of can reference what's said so far as I go along. Anyways, a weird thing happened right after the November 3rd election. Nothing. The nation was braced for chaos. Liberal groups had vowed to take to the streets, planning hundreds of protests across the country. Right-wing militias were girdling for battle. In a poll before Election Day, 75% of Americans voiced concern about violence. Instead, an eerie quiet descended. As President Trump refused to concede, the response was not mass action, but crickets. When media—
Wait a second. I mean, I have to pause it there. I mean, just the mindset of these people that the right is going to erupt in violence, right? I mean, this is how they think. It's unbelievable. Like they have no idea who half the country is. They can't possibly, you know, they claim to have all this empathy and sympathy, yet they can't think about how they can't put themselves in the minds of these people, in their shoes, any of that, and understand these aren't violent people. These are people that are fed up of being talked down to by condescending pricks in Hollywood, in the establishment, in the cathedral. That's it. Anyways, sorry.
No, actually, no, and definitely do that throughout the whole thing, Tim. Interrupt me as much as you want, because this stuff is really important. And actually, I'm going to even springboard off that and point at the fact it almost seems like they were a little bit disappointed that no violence occurred, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing about it actually is, and basically they will admit, but that's not how it was suggested or how it was presented after the so-called insurrection, right? They're saying here basically crickets. But the insurrection, and I mean, we've all watched the video footage. I mean, was it something that was, you know, pretty weird and crazy, and a bunch of people going in and doing some stuff and looking at statues, or, you know, the guy with his horn sitting in one of the fucking big desks, right, in the Oval Office or somewhere, or whatever, or maybe it's Nancy Pelosi, whatever. All that stuff was crazy. I get it. But an insurrection, hello, or anything even remotely resembling a coup, like, if it was the biggest fucking fail. I mean, was there 300 plus million guns, right? I don't know how many millions of Americans are not just NRA members, but identify as members of militias, and totally understand the importance of the Second Amendment and understand the history of the United States entirely. And yet they trying to label this as a insurrection. It's like, really though? Like, apparently they all must have forgot that if you're going to, you know, do anything remotely resembling an insurrection, well, you got to do a little bit more than take, you know, selfies and photo ops and sit.
Yeah. It was like they were led into the Capitol, and a bunch of these idiots went in there. They looked around. It looked like they were looking around for a drain plug to drain the swamp and couldn't find one, so they just took some selfies. And that highlights modern populism to me. Yeah. It's that they imagine that it's all about the power, right? That culture has nothing to do with it, that there's some control levers there to control, and that the real reason is that the people don't have access to these control levers. It's all these elite and these oligarchs and everything else. Well, they don't have access to those control levers either. There's no control levers. That's the sad fact of this. There's people that are really good at playing the game. Then there's the rest of us. And, it's like the only thing that's going to change this is a cultural awakening and people demanding a political market demand for small government. And I'm sorry, but that's not here right now. And populists are definitely not demanding small government. They want the government to do shit that they want. They want border controls. They want nationalization of Facebook, or they want this and that. They want government to do stuff, right? And until we hate the state, we're never going to get the kind of freedom we want. Anyways, that's my
right on, Tim. Perfect, man. Right on. No, don't worry about that. When media organizations called the race for Joe Biden on November 7th, jubilation broke out instead, as people thronged cities across the U.S. to celebrate the democratic process that resulted in Trump's ouster. That's a second thing. Oh, a second odd thing happened amid Trump's attempt to reverse the result. Corporate America turned on him. Hundreds of major business leaders, many of whom have backed Trump's candidacy and supported his policies, called on him to concede. To the president, something felt amiss. It was all very, very strange, Trump said on December 2nd. Within days after the election, we witnessed an orchestrated effort to anoint the winner, even while many key states were still being counted. In a way, Trump was right. In a way.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is the part here, folks. Well, actually, if you want, even before we continue on to that, now, I've already heard a couple other people have been dealing with this, right? And they're saying, "Well, this is fascism." Well, I'm going to be a bit of a spoiler alert, right? But sorry to break the bubble to you folks, or to burst your bubble and to break this terrible news. But yeah, we're already basically living under modern fascistic states. The difference is, though, is like the problem with people that when they try to use this where it's like an exact replica, like when you use terms like fascism or Nazism, I mean, they all sound good. Communism, socialism. But once again, to me, as a big thinking kind of guy, like a macro thinking kind of guy, I like it. Every one of them, it's like saying the Leafs, the Canadians, right? The Senators, they're all hockey teams, folks. And on all of these self-identified groups are all authoritarian collectives. They all seek to do one thing. They all share in common, which is to sacrifice the individual or deny the individual for the concept of the greater good or the collective. And to me, that's the only thing that matters to me. Is I don't care what label or what brand of collectivism you're coming up with. And of course, they're going to reinvent them today or tweak them in a manner so it's not going to be exact duplicate or replica of the National Socialist Party of Germany or Mussolini's fascist party or Mao's the Communist Party or Lenin or Stalin's the Communist Party in Russia. It's going to be, once again, they're going to use the same underlying premises in terms of sacrificing the individual to the collective, but they're going to tweak the narrative for whatever particular structure and environment that they're going to be dealing with today. And today, whether you want to call it fascism but that's the thing. One thing I will say is there are differences, and I explain this to people too, is the difference between fascism or corporatism, which are the two terminologies that most people use right today for the right wingers, and socialism or communism that used to be, is the central planner types, especially on the economic side of things, mostly on the economic side of things, they realize that, yeah, if you just install some fucking puppet or figurehead into these mega corporations in the communist or any other quasi-socialist state, well, they fail real quickly because these people, like, you don't have the right kind of mind power. You don't have the right kind of mindset for the kind of people who are going to be conducive with establishing this business and maintaining them and growing them at some point in time in the future. The fascistic model is just once again, it's tweaking and it's more efficient, right? It's a more efficient way of central planning. So rather than going in and installing someone to take over, whether it's the Royal Bank of Canada or Walmart, or it should just use government mandates and edicts, regulation, and you dictate and control every economic aspect of what that business is allowed to do. And you've done the exact same thing, except now you still have the CEO or the people that actually somewhat know how to run these businesses still in the position as the CEO. but yet you still get to control what they're allowed to do. So to me, it's I think the fascistic model and the Chinese model seems to be kind of, like I say, so they call it communism in China, but they also say communism with a Chinese twist. Well, what it is like I say, we got to stop using some of these old labels, although we recognize that they're around for a reason, because people need to understand that they are very closely aligned to what's taking place today. It's just that we haven't come up with a whole new term today. Someone will, maybe at some point in time in the future, they'll come up with a whole new term of what we call it today. I don't know, globalism might be enough, right? But either
Well,
way,
it's state interventionism. You know, it's this idea that you can, you know, the mixed economy idea where the state can be involved in certain aspects, and then but acknowledging that while we can't, we have to have some aspects of a free market. You know, that's kind of what we're doing. And yeah, I mean, it's unfair probably to compare things to communism or fascism. Those have specific meanings. Fascism generally also means, you know, their economic model is typically corporatism. That's what Mussolini came up with, literally. But it's also, there's more things to fascism, right? Like nationalism, hyper nationalism, and kind of like a mystical, almost religious ethos and spirituality that undergirds that nationalism. You know, it was very prevalent in the Nazi regime. We definitely don't have something like that, especially not in Canada right now. We have really no national identity to speak of, let alone the levels of hyper nationalism and mysticism that the fascists want. And then communism and socialism. I mean, you know, Marx never really distinguished between communism and socialism. He used them synonymously, but he did say there's lower level socialism and then higher level socialism or communism. And so generally speaking, I think it was Stalin that eventually separated socialism from communism, where socialism is kind of you know, public ownership, or like you have centralized boards controlling different organizations, but then full out communism is the state owns everything and runs everything, and there's no wages or money or any of that sort of thing anymore. But you know, what we have now, there are certain similarities to fascism, certain similarities to socialism, but you know, what they call it now is a mixed economy. At the end of the day, the problem with socialism, communism, fascism, and what we have today are exactly the same thing. They are initiations of force and violence against the individual. That's what makes them bad. That's what makes them evil. And that's why we oppose all those things.
Yeah, actually, as you're talking, and I'm glad you were talking about this stuff, because it just brought something to me, is when you, because I'm thinking about the whole COVID-19, and what you're explaining to me is, if we weren't talking about government, if we were talking with the virus, I would think that you were describing the exact same thing, because that's how a parasite or how a virus actually works, right? Tell you the truth, what it is. And a virus doesn't have a political party or any think tanks, right? But a virus, even a virus, knows that, well, if you kill off the host entirely, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to survive or thrive for very long. And that's why the third way, or the mixed model, and why Chinese or American or British or Canadian, or, like I say, whether we want to call it fascism or not, I don't know, whatever the label is going to be used. But it definitely all seems to align and associate with this pretense where we're eliminating everybody's ability to, well, free market has to, basically freedom entirely in the social and economic realm. They both have to basically go by the wayside for a one size fits all approach. And that is basically the only model that is going to be allowed to exist, because if there's anything that is competition driven, then you're not going to be able to perfect that model. It's always about keeping everything under the control and set your plan, and not allowing anyone to escape or skirt those controls, because the minute you've done so, then the gig is up. But that's the thing. Now they've made sure that nobody really has the ability to push back against this stuff. Anyways, what were you thinking? I kind of lost my train of thought. I don't know if you realize while I was kind of rambling on there, but what were you going on there, Tim? Sorry, man.
No, I was just talking, you know, trying to put a name for identifying the system we have now, or how would we accurately describe it? Talking to, you know, you were asking for a name. Mises had an article about this. I just read this actually last night. That's why this is fresh in my mind. But yeah, I mean, coming back to this article and the cathedral, all these assumptions are just implicit. They're just right there in the article, taken for granted. Yeah, we can use violence for this and that and the next thing, right? And the hypocrisy is laid bare here. I mean, they talk in the article about how they are suppressing lies and disinformation and fake news in social media. Of course, it's disinformation from their perspective, but it might not be from someone else's. Like there might be facts in there, but they just dismiss them. Like for example, did Hunter Biden take his laptop to get repaired, and did it have a bunch of shady stuff on it? Yes, the answer is yes, and that was suppressed because it was considered fake news or something like that, right? Yet these guys can go on and talk about a Russian conspiracy and how Russia basically got Trump elected, and all these unfounded things. In the article, they talk about how this coalition of the Voting Rights Lab and a group called Into Action created state-specific memes and graphics, spread them by email, text, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, urging that every vote be counted, and they were viewed over 1 billion times. So here they are cozying up to big tech and using big tech to get their message out, while simultaneously using big tech to quash the message of their opponents.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, let me get a little bit more further into that, because actually there's more stuff. And actually, maybe I should bring this up before I actually read it, because I did put this down a few points, because this is something that stood out to me. And we'll probably get that part after I read this. During the election, any suggestion of election interference, rigging, voter fraud, or unscrupulous practices rejected and labeled far-right conspiracy theorists. So when Trump was, and we know this, the Trump team, they were putting it out there and preempting and suggesting that there might be some nefarious things that were taking place by the Democrats or Democratic insiders. I mean, it was rejected outright. I mean, we all watched the media outlets or watched the videos subsequent after that fact, and any publication that were talking about the election results or up to the election, and they were saying, no, everything's on the up and up. We're paying attention. We got lots of people, and there's nothing nefarious. Nothing's going wrong here. Like this is just a pure, natural democratic process. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along, right? And yet, well, once again, let me read a little bit from here, and we'll get to find out. Well, apparently not so much, right? So like I say, so the last part was, in a way, Trump was right, is what they said. So there was a conspiracy unfolding behind the scenes, one that both curtailed the protests and coordinated the resistance from CEOs. Both surprises were the result of an informal alliance between left-wing activists and business titans. The part was formalized in a terse, little-noticed joint statement of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and AFL-CIO published on election day. Both sides would come to see it as a sort of implicit bargain inspired by the summer's massive, sometimes destructive racial justice protests, in which the forces of labor came together with the forces of capital to keep the peace and oppose Trump's assault on democracy. So I don't know if you got anything to say about this. Well, I definitely do. But if you do, go right ahead there, Tim.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So what this gets me here is, because I think anyone that's going to watch this live stream, they know, because you're either the employee or the employer, right? So, or maybe you've been both at some point in time, but usually you're one or the other at some point in time, right? During your economic prowess or your employment opportunities throughout your life. So if you're the employee, don't you find it a little bit fucking weird that they're suggesting that so the CEO, so the boss, the man, right? The boss, the man, the business owner, the corporation. And that's the thing I've watched for decades and decades, how people that would all identify as left is how the corporate world, it's the corporations, Occupy Wall Street. Remember, folks? Remember that? Do you remember that? I know it's a while ago, right? But you remember the whole Occupy Wall Street? Remember the financial crisis? And it was predominantly, sure, there was some libertarians sprinkled amongst them, of course, right? Libertarians care about freedom, social and economic. But, a lot of these Occupy Wall Streeters were, leftist activists. A lot of these people right here, right? But now, apparently, the CEOs and the working class and the unions, although that's the thing. They talk about, when you're talking about AFL-CIO, you're talking about whether it's like Jerry Diaz in Canada, right? You're talking about the big wigs that run these unions. That doesn't mean that everybody that's employed in any of these, because that's another thing, these AFLC, they employ their unions for all entire segments. It could be millions of people. But these people that are representative of these unions, right? The leaders, which are the ones that are supposed to be 100%, just like how the media is supposed to be adversarial to government. The whole point of having a union is to be adversarial to the corporation, right? To stand in defense of you as the employee. That's the only reason why unions exist, is to protect and defend you, the employee, against the corporation. So the minute, I mean, I got to tell you, if I'm employed in any of these organizations and it's unionized, and somebody tells me, or I get a note, or I get even a sniffle where someone's saying, what? You mean our union reps have gotten in bed? You mean last night they went to Motel 8? And they fucking went, they got in bed together? Okay, well, now all of a sudden I'm a little bit suspicious. I'm a union rep. It's like, does he really have my interest? Does he really have my best interest in mind? And it's all for what? Because Trump bad. Orange man bad. So corporations and unions are in bed together because Trump bad. And nobody sees how bad or how detrimental that might be to the working class.
Yeah. Well, and of course, corporations and unions are also in bed on all the things that suppress competition, right? So minimum wage laws, for example, initially brought in and supported by unions to suppress black labor. And, they use it again, continue to use it to suppress labor, to suppress competition, because the corporations they work for can afford to pay them minimum wage and then some, and they're going to be able to make even more money once competition is suppressed and customers have no choice but to pay the higher prices that their monopolist employer now charges. So this is all very much in their self-interest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyways, continuing on. So both sides would come to see it as a sort of implicit bargain inspired by this. Okay, so I read that. The handshake between business and labor was just one component of a vast cross-partisan campaign to protect the election, an extraordinary shadow effort dedicated not to winning the vote, but to ensuring it would be free and fair, credible, and uncorrupted.
Oh yeah, how'd that work out for you? Had you look all above board to everyone? No shady crap going on? It's like the very thing, all the things they did made it look shady as hell, right? All the mail-in stuff, the insistence on loosey-goosey election ID, voter ID, and all that kind of thing. Dead people voting twice, all this crap were the things that they were campaigning for, basically, and that is what they were fighting for, so that things look shady as hell. Things kind of backfired on them there, if that was real.
Well, the part of this, and we'll get to this even as we get further down in the article, but this whole thing reads like it's a letter written as like for Democrat eyes only, because if you're anyone that's not part of the Democratic or the establishment system, when you're reading this is like, just like you and I, it's like, damn. But that's so weird, because when these people are writing this stuff, I don't know this lady in particular who wrote this, but it's like, it's so weird, because I get how if I was a Democrat, right, I'd be like, oh, this is so great. And yeah, but anyone outside of that, it's like, damn, this sounds like some fucking Orwellian shit. And I don't know, to me, I was even asking my wife earlier, because I'm really genuinely curious. Is it these people are genuinely so sociopathic that they'll just lie so blatantly like that? Or do they I would like to talk this. Like, do you firmly believe this shit that you're writing, or are you just putting that on for the show, the spectacle of it? Because I'm curious. I'm so curious to know if these people, because I get in the moment, I get how you might gain some benefit from a whole segment of society, but I just can't help but think that constantly catering and coddling one side and throwing the other side to the wall, I just can't help. Do you not realize that's probably not a good idea in at least the medium or long-term strategy, right? I don't know. I always find this stuff extremely, not just thought-provoking, but a little bit disturbing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, Look, these people are motivated. The CEOs and all the big money behind this are motivated for a different reason than the BLM activist is motivated for, right? I
Yep.
mean, these corporatists, like a part of me wonders, okay, well, why did they work so hard to overthrow Trump? I mean, Biden isn't going to be that much different than Trump. I mean, there's still going to be kids in cages. There's still going to be protectionism. There's still going to be all, bombings going on. Like, what's the difference here? And I think we're kind of seeing the difference in that Biden has written like 60 or 70 executive orders right out of day one. He's committed to trillions of dollars in spending. I mean, Trump committed to one and a bit trillion, but Biden's already surpassed that, I think. So here's what Biden represents to these people. It's like state corporatism on steroids, on all sorts of money going into their oligopolies, and all sorts of suppression of competition, and all sorts of things that are going to make them rich as bandits. And I think that's where a lot of the motivation came from behind this. It's like they knew right from day one, Biden is an establishment guy. Like, Trump turned out to be pretty establishment too. I mean, he definitely didn't get the things done that he said he was. He wasn't the person that a lot of people thought he was going to be. He didn't end the wars. He didn't,
But he's not a team player, Tim.
That's it. He was unpredictable. You didn't know what he was going to do, right?
Yep.
And so you needed to get out. Biden, we know what to expect from him. He's been a swamp creature for over 40 years. He will, give us all the bailouts and corporatism that we can handle, and then some. And so that's the guy that we got to back. But yeah.
Oh yeah, they definitely knew that between Trump and Biden, like, I'm sure, and some of them were kind of like a little bit on the fence. I guess that's why Trump did get to his first term in power, because I'm sure even some of the leftists who support him were like, yeah, let's give this guy a chance, because he's definitely not a Republican, right? See where he can go with his term, because as we recognize, both people on the left and right are disenfranchised with the status quo. So I suppose, but like you're saying, they realize that this kid's a little bit of a wild horse. He's a little bit of a stanger. We can't control this guy nearly as much as old Joe. Oh, trusty, old sleepy Joe. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Just give him a picture of some young girl, or let him go sniff someone, and he'll be okay. He'll fall in line, right?
Give him a scratch and sniff.
Give him a scratch and sniff. He's good for a week, man. Right? Yeah. But yeah, I definitely see how, right? And if you put yourself in the mindset of these people, I see how that works, is because, yeah, at least with Joe Biden, he's a much more trustworthy figure, because, yeah, we've got 4.5 decades of his track record to show, yeah, he's definitely part of the team. And that's really, at the end of the day, that's what it is anyone who's willing to forgo principles or their own ideas or concepts is you have to be a team player. And once again, it's not that I'm against being a team player, but there's this little thing that fucking I have. It's called morals and ethics, right? It's like, we're all a team player. I'm totally a team player if you're going to be a reasonable person. I'm on a team where we're pretty reasonable people. I have been on a team player, but yeah, I'm kind of one of those people too. I'll exit the team the minute I realize that they've gone to the dark side. And once again, like you were suggesting, is Trump, they didn't know which way he was going to lead. He was like, he could go one way or the other, but he's so independent. And there's so many hacks that are representative of the establishment that have poked him in the fucking eye too long. It's like, yeah, we just can't trust this guy. We just can't trust him to stick with the program, right? So yeah, I firmly believe that's what it was. And to them and to the corporate class, to the Wall Street execs, there's just too many special interest groups, right, who have so much at stake and maintain the status quo that I guess I firmly believe they were willing to forgo any principles, any pretense of allowing freedom or liberty to take place. It's just, this is our last chance to not just game the system, to maintain the structure as we've set it up over the recent decades. And if we don't, well, then everything's up in the air, and we have the potential of losing everything. So yeah, they doubled down, and they're basically even admitted as much in this article. And the fact that they've done it, I guess, and got away with it, it has emboldened them to basically just come out and do this. And that's one thing I will say about the left is, my God, they actually seem to have way more fucking courage than their counterparts on the right these days. I mean, right wingers are constantly, what I see all the time, is looking to they'll basically double down on their kind of they'll proofread their own statements 1,000 times to make sure they haven't said one word wrong. Whereas these people are like, we've got so many people that'll rally around and join us no matter what we say, that they're willing to do this stuff, which tells you that when you get to the point, and this is what happens in it's a democracy, folks. Once the majority, once the mob have gamed the system, and I mean, we've seen this. I mean, me and Tim, we've all shared these quotes from geniuses in the past, right?
Well, here and Bennett, let me ask you this: imagine that this were an article written about Trump winning, right, and all the things that the Republican base and everyone came together to secure the election and fortify the election and make sure that it wasn't, like, what if this article was just written by the other side? How would the leftists be taking this article right now?
Oh, Tim, you know what? Too late now because we've already done it, man. I wish we had talked before this, because we should have set this whole thing up just for a kind of a joke and just reference this whole thing, but as if Trump had won, right? Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Because I'm completely, while you're saying that, I'm thinking about that whole thing as how that would have unfolded. And it definitely wouldn't be, look at how we saved democracy. It would have been a full-on fascist coup, right? Trump really did give us a full fascist coup, and they would be looking to send in whoever the hell it was.
I mean, look, Russians bought what, $20 worth of Facebook ads, and that was Russians stole the election. They colluded with Russia. Like, just imagine if Trump came out in the open and said, we worked with labor unions, we worked with CEOs, we made sure that we got Facebook and private and all these companies, social media companies, to put out our message and quash the disinformation and fake news from the left. And we secured the election for the American people to make sure, not to win, but to make sure it was all perceived as being on the up and up, and that there was no doubting who won this election. And, if you were saying that kind of stuff, there would be riots in the street. There would be every city in America burning down right now if this article came out from.
I don't doubt that for a minute. Anyways, let's continue on a little bit there, Tim.
Sure.
So where were we at?
Just so you know, I've got about 5-10 minutes before I got to jet here. But
for sure. Actually, well, then you know what? I can even continue to do this even after. Like I say, I just really appreciate you joining the stream. And actually, let's just take the time now to just give you whatever time you have left there, Tim, and just, like I say, go on with whatever you want to talk about, whenever you want to discuss any aspect of this. Maybe even if you have something else that you got going on or in the works or whatever, because like I say, I'm always really appreciative to have you on this channel, because I definitely respect not just you as a person, but I also recognize that at some point in time in the future, that the whole politics thing is going to play out up here. It's not like Canada. We're not going to escape or avoid any of this shit. So what I want is to get you, the man, Tim Moen, because like I say, when the election comes, I want Canadians to realize, because I'm done with the whole PBC thing, folks. Listen, liberty and libertarians, if you truly care, it's about the ideas, it's about the culture, and Tim understands this. Maxime is a little bit behind the 8 ball on that stuff. He's still trying to play the politics game, and I get it. I'm losing support. I've lost lots of people. I've lost probably thousands of people that used to watch me, but I don't care at the end of the day. It's all about principles. It's all about the ideas, and it's all about what is genuinely going to entice and bring people towards being more adopting a live, let live mentality. And if we can do that, then like I say, that's the only thing we have. We're not central planners. We're not control freaks. We don't want to manipulate and control people's lives. We just want to give them the evidence and the ideas that is needed and necessary for them to either know what it is to be free and to fight up and stave off those who try to suppress or deny those freedoms. If you have that, at least those tools in your arsenal or in your belt, then you have at least a somewhat opportunity or a chance to defend and fight for those freedoms. But if you don't have the ideas, just like Tim was saying earlier, it's all up here, folks. Listen, the only thing that's enslaving us is up here, and I'm pretty good up here. I'm trying to figure these things out. Tim's pretty good up in his mind trying to figure this stuff out. What we need to do is help figure out ways to get more and more Canadians to figuring this stuff out and thinking more critically about these issues. Because really, that's the only way we ever get to the point where we truly have this situation or scenario, where we have that live, let live mentality is if other people are willing to do the same thing. And it's the
Yeah.
idea, it's the philosophy, it's the principles, and keep hammering away at them time and time again. Every opportunity we get, that is what we have at our disposal. And Tim has that in spades. And like I say, I'm really always appreciative for him to come on this channel and offer the information. So yeah, go ahead there, run with it, Tim.
Yeah, well, like Anarcha Rika said, it's all in your head, folks. That's right. I mean, this system is made up of the belief system of people, and our job is to persuade them to change their hearts and minds, to make more libertarians, more anarchists, and I mean, you basically said everything that I could say. You did a better job of selling me than I could sell myself. But, you know, if people want to follow me, they can go to timmoen.net. They can go to our party webpage, libertarian.ca. If you're in Canada, join the party. Help us get the message out. We're using this party as a platform to get a message out, just like Bennett's doing here on this platform. We use the political platform. We're willing to trade away all the votes to get the message out. We're not chasing votes. We're here to change hearts and minds. We think chasing votes is a fool's errand. It's a naive way to play the game. We're all about changing hearts and minds, about culture, and that's what we're about. So timmoen.net, libertarian.ca, and you can catch me on Twitter at Moen_Tim. Thanks, Bennett, for all you do, and I'm happy to come on. I'll be happy to come on again. So thank you. Thanks to your audience.
Tim, and thank you once again, my friend, and we'll definitely talk to you again soon. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Take it easy. All right, so that was a great chat, like I say, and I always appreciate Tim coming onto the channel. He's definitely the one guy I know in this country who is actually part and parcel of a political party who I genuinely trust, which is, that goes a long way, folks. I don't trust too many politicians. Well, that's what it is. Tim's not a politician. That's what it is at the end of the day. Tim is someone that realizes that, you know, people fall for the politics. They like to play into the political game in the political realm. So we got to offer and afford them that opportunity, right? Because that's another option and opportunity that is afforded to us in terms of fighting and defending freedom. But at the end of the day, Tim acknowledged, I will always acknowledge that it's the culture. We got to get, and you know, just like I was saying, and I was so glad to see that this is taking place. You see that guy, and he's actually Canadian. How proud am I? Well, not proud. It's not like he's not my son, but so yeah, I got to get away from that nationalist pride crap myself. But it is very cool to see that Tom McDonald guy. I don't know if you folks have seen him yet, but he's already he's been out for a while now, but he's kind of taken off now. That song that he just produced not too long ago, Fake Woke. But I really like, and like I've said so many times before, this is what we need. People who are part and parcel of the cultural, the arts and entertainment, the people who really do genuinely affect people in so many ways, right? And as a Gen Xer, born and raised mostly by television and radio and music and all that stuff and movies, right? Yeah, movies had a massive, movies, music, television had a massive influence, right? It wasn't just religion. Definitely wasn't necessarily politics, but yes, cultural things such as movies, music, television, right? These things definitely played a role in teaching me about what the proper roles or what the proper principle in life are, right? Like when you're watching Braveheart and you're watching him, he just wants to be a guy, to have a wife, to raise a family, be a peaceful. He just don't fuck with me, Longshanks. Just leave me the fuck alone. How about you go fuck off, right? That's all. When you send a story that people they just want to live and let live, don't want to cause harm to nobody. That's what a libertarian is. Hey, hashtag Braveheart was a libertarian, right? No, but I mean, really, because that's what a libertarian is. Just leave me the fuck alone. You do you and I'll do me. How's that, right? Or, well, at least when you're talking about peace, right? Now, I'll be more than willing to come and help you at any time. That's another thing that people try to suggest towards libertarians, as if that we're just so independent, we don't like anyone, or we're just isolated or alone. No, I have lots of people that surround me. Great people. I would never want to be isolated alone. As a matter of fact, that's not what I am by any stretch of the imagination. But I do recognize that I do, at the very least, minimally want to surround myself with people who, at least at the minimal, respect me for my sovereignty. And don't constantly try to force themselves or impose their mandates or the edicts on me, because that's the only relationship, as far as I'm concerned, in my life that I've ever respected or wanted to be part and parcel of, is if there's mutual respect, right? Without that, I don't want to have nothing to do with anybody that doesn't respect me. right? We can do our thing. You can do your thing. And there are times when we can come together and do things of similar, right? We can do things together, even though we might have differences and disagreements in other areas and aspects of life. That's fine. We can, when we are dealing with each other, you do you, you do me. But when we're dealing with each other, all we require at the end of the day, just be peaceful. Don't use violence, don't use force, and don't steal from me, right? Don't try to control me. That's it. Pretty minimal stuff. And it shouldn't be that difficult to understand. But our opponents, the people who constantly are labeling us as the bad people, they obviously aren't conducive with allowing a live, let live mentality. So, really, who are the truly bad people among us, right? Not libertarians. Or even if some libertarians are people you don't like, that's fine. There's lots of people I don't like, libertarians or not. But as long as they're not trying to force their way onto me, I don't really give a fuck. I don't have to like them. I wasn't born to like everybody, and neither were you. Neither was anyone else. Anyways, let's see what's going on down the chat. Sorry for all you folks for me missing out on the chats there. So I'm moving at the end of the month. Ooh, who's with me? Who's with me? Where are you going, Mr. G Rich? I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. You got a big trailer? How much stuff can you fit in there? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, where you going, Mr. G Rich? Scatter, 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 scatter. No, but yeah. Well, yeah, moving. But if you're going down the US, listen, if there's anyone down the US that can help me get like a work visa, some way just to try to get, I actually, as much as I do love, you know, my little parcel of land here in the old East Coast in New Brunswick, I do really like this place. I love living in the stick, but the writing's on the wall, and I gotta say, Texas is looking pretty damn good right now. Well, I've always kind of had an affinity for Texas anyway, and nowadays it's just seeming more and more. Or actually, I gotta say, and for all you Super Bowl fans, Florida, you gotta like that, right? All those people down in the stands of Florida and not having to mask up. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, right? Now they'll be reporting there's a big outbreak or something. Anyways, I brought 2 Americans over. Oh, really? I brought 2 here. Americans came here. Oh, goddamn! You got to be kidding. Because I'd trade places with them tomorrow in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, literally. I wouldn't even give it a second thought. Wouldn't even give it a second thought. I know, and some of my fellow Canadians like, but you're the Canadian libertarian. I know. Listen, if the country that I live in ever, or the people that represent it, right? That's the thing. If they ever get on board with actually caring about freedom and liberty and respecting my sovereignty, then of course I'm back on. I loving my fellow. But like I say, what I recognize is apparently most of my peers in my country hate me for the fact that I want to be a free human being. And I mean, do I want to live around people that hate me for the sheer fact that I just want to have a live, let live mentality and not have top down authoritarian mandates or edicts imposed on me for the rest of my goddamn life? Anyways, let me read a little bit more from this article, because it is really interesting. The handshake between business and labor was just one component of a vast cross. Okay, I read that part. For more than a year, a usually organized coalition of operatives scrambled to shore up America's institutions as they came under simultaneous attack from a remorseless pandemic and an autocratically inclined president. Autocratically inclined. I mean, come on, like Tim said, Joe's already fucking did more fucking executive orders. Well, he did more executive orders, I think, in the first day than Trump did in the first couple of years of his fucking. But whatever, right? Though much of this activity took place on the left, it was separate from the Biden campaign and crossed ideological lines. Of course, right? What are they called? Rhinos. Republican name only, right? The deep state, the establishment. Of course, there's Republicans that are part of the establishment. Hello, George W. Bush, Colin Powell, Yellow Cake, all those people, Condoleezza Rice, the whole. Yes, of course, there are fucking people from the Republicans who are part of the establishment and part of the swamp. Hello. Doesn't take a genius to figure that stuff out. Though much of this activity took place on the left, it was separated separate from cross ideological lines with critical contributions by nonpartisan conservative actors. The scenario the shadow campaigners were desperate to stop was not a Trump victory. It was an election so calamitous, that no result could be discerned at all. A failure of the central act of democratic self-governance that has been a hallmark of America since its founding. Whatever. Anyways, this was the part, as you see, that's why I highlighted it. I found absolutely amazing, right? Their work touched on every aspect of the election. They got states to change voting systems and laws and help secure hundreds of millions in public and private funding. So they got states to change voting systems and laws, right? There you go. States to change voting systems and laws. Now, if they changed the voting systems and the laws, well, this explains, and I said this in a past live stream, I believe in that I already did a while back. Might have been the Liberty Hunter podcast with my son when I was doing it. Actually, probably was. But it's like, well, of course, if they change the fucking law, and I even when Trump and his team were saying about the illegal and challenging, and of course, like, do you not realize that there's still a whole lot of activist judges? Yeah, sure, Trump, I get you appointed 200 judges, but there are fucking thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of judges, right, in the U.S. And that deep state's been around a whole lot longer than your one little term, right? So it's like, really, do you really think you really trust these people? But anyways, but the fact that, like I said, they went in and changed the laws and the voting systems, of course. So when Trump and his team were coming in afterwards saying, oh, they broke the law. It's like, well, that's a bad way to go about it. Like, what the fuck? They were trying to play this. Trump, you trusted lawyers. And I got to tell you, man, Trump, if you haven't learned anything up to this point in time in your life, 70-something-year-old man, and you should have, is stop fucking trusting lawyers. I get it. They've made you lots of money, right? No doubt. They probably helped and benefit you economically. But they're also snake oil salesmen that'll lie like a motherfucker for any reason. If you pay them, they'll lie to anybody, right? So you really trust these people, right? Not necessarily. And this should have been, well, this at the very least, maybe now, Trump will come around to realize that maybe the legal class aren't so trustworthy after all. Duh. But anyways, yeah. So they changed the voting system and laws. So when they say, no, it wasn't rigged. Well, yeah, it was rigged. Of course it was rigged if you changed the voting system and laws. But you changed the voting system and laws. So apparently, right, if you've changed them, you can honestly say there's going to be a lawyer and a judge, and they've already done this, will say, well, I guess it's okay because they changed the laws and the law says that you're allowed to do this now. So go ahead. Don't you think how do you think Nazi Germany come to exist? How do you think fascist Italy? How do you think Stalin's fucking Russia? Don't you think they wrote all the laws and the rules and the regulations, right, to benefit them against other people's expenses, right? Like, oh, come on. This is the insane part. Of course, fucking course. Which is why the angle of saying that it was all just to fucking like the Trump team, I got to tell you, man, you surround yourself with a bunch of fucking losers for the most part. And Trump, man, you should have known better than that anyways. But, and all your Q fuck dipsticks, all a bunch of, yeah, you need to, don't worry about this, Fox. Like I say, Trump should have been, leaning towards someone like Rand Paul. Get some libertarians, get some intelligent fucking peeps that don't have fucking skin in the game or their own fucking agenda other than freedom. You should have been looking out to reach to those people, Trump. You failed at that in that regard. Well, you suffered, and I guess everyone else is going to have to suffer as a consequence too. But anyways, so yeah, so they got secured hundreds of millions in public and private funding, and of course that's all legal too, right? It's all set up to be legal, whether you're Democrat or Republican. You can spend hundreds of millions of dollars in public or private funding, right? They fended off voter suppression lawsuits. And I mean, that's another thing too. When you're talking about hundreds of millions of public and private funding, but what if a substantial portion of those hundreds of millions of public and private funding came as a direct result or consequence of the monetary stimulus, of the printing of billions and billions and billions and ultimately trillions of dollars, right? It's all a fucking rigged game, people, at the end of the day. regardless of what side you align with. They fended off voter suppression lawsuits, recruited. Oh, here's the part. Yeah, here's the part. Just one tiny little sentence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. 6 words. That's all it is. 6 measly words. But those 6 words speak volumes. Because when you're talking about voter suppression, as it pertains to the U.S. election, it's the lawsuits were to make sure that people had to at least show a piece of ID to vote. I mean, come on. I mean, you know how voting gives people the ability to dictate and control the lives of millions of people and steal from them economically, right? Don't you at the very least? First of all, I don't think that should be anything that anybody should be allowed to do. It's not legitimate, of course. But if you're going to pretend that it's legitimate for people to vote, to steal from people, or to control their lives, well, at the very least, shouldn't they at least show that they're fucking American? If you're going to try to control other Americans or dictate their lives or steal from them, well, should you at the very least minimally prove that you're an American as well? No, that's voter suppression. It's not allowed, right? Okay. Recruited armies of poll workers. Why would you need to recruit? I don't understand. Poll workers just poll. You don't have to hire anyone when you're talking about, extra, additional poll workers. Gotcha. And got millions of people to vote by mail for the first time. Yeah. And that's another thing. I said this in a past stream too. If someone gives you the ability or the pretense of legitimacy that you can vote to socially or economically enslave other people, another minimal requirement that you should have to show up in fucking person and say, I want to steal from these people, right? You shouldn't be able to hide anonymously behind a letter and say, okay, I want to steal from people, but here, just take that, right? I'm not willing to stand up for it. As a matter of fact, I'm too fat, too lazy to get my ass off the couch. Hey, I'm watching what? Oh, I guess you can't watch Oprah anymore. I don't know what the fuck do people watch in terms of talk shows and all that lazy ass, lame shit. I don't know, whatever. But so, yeah, sure, I could get my ass off the couch, but nah, I could just sign something that somebody delivered in my mail, and they'll even come pick it on. So I don't even have to get my fat ass off the couch to social or economically enslaved people. It's like, yeah, bare minimum, once again, requirement. If you're going to have a top-down authoritarian dictatorship where you have the pretense to dictate and control every aspect of people's social and economic lives, bare minimum, get off your fat, duff fucking ass and go vote. Right? But no, my COVID. Oh, COVID. It's a gift. It just keeps on giving for the left, right? They successfully pressured social media companies to take a harder line against disinformation. Okay, disinformation? Really? You're talking about the election. We're talking about the election. Hey, folks. By the way, we're talking about an election, a political process where there is no such thing as objective standards to measure or gauge anybody, because we're talking about politics, but yet they want to pretend that there's something objective here, right? Is that what they're trying? Really? Take a harder line against disinformation and use data-driven strategies to fight viral smears. So, anything that might harm us in any way is we made sure that nobody was allowed to harm our narrative or our stance or our rhetoric in any way. Gotcha. Right on. Sounds totally legit. Totally on the up and up, folks. Shit, right? This is good stuff. They executed national public awareness campaigns that helped Americans understand how the vote count would unfold over days or weeks, preventing Trump's conspiracy theories and false claims of victory from getting more traction. His conspiracies. So when Trump's doing something, it's all conspiracy theories. But yet you're acknowledging that you did all these things to conspire against Trump. But yet it was a theory. Actually, sounds very much like Trump wasn't just putting out a theory, but a fact. It sounds like Trump totally understood and knew exactly what was taking place. And you people are just coming out and admitting it, but yet still trying to use the rhetoric or suggest that Trump or his fans or his base were just a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Okay, gotcha. And false claims of victory. Okay. After election day, they monitored every pressure point to ensure that Trump could not overturn the result. Oh, really? The untold story of the election is the thousands of people of both parties who accomplished the triumph of American democracy at its very foundation, says Norm Eisen, a prominent lawyer and former Obama administration official who recruited Republicans and Democrats to the board of the Voter Protection Program. Like, oh, the language. George Orwell, man. I wish George was alive today. God, I miss George. Well, I never got to meet the man, but I would love to say, George, is this not the rhetoric that you talked about in 1984? Is this not? Is the Democratic Party and these fucking insiders, the deep state, the swamp, are they not? Man, they not only they read your book, but they took that shit right to heart. Matter of fact, it seems like they took it as not just a book, but an instruction manual, right? Sounds like it. Seems like it to me. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. For Trump and his allies were running their own campaign to spoil the election. The president spent months insisting that mail ballots were a Democratic plot and the election would be rigged. His henchmen at the state level sought to block their use, while his lawyer brought dozens of spurious suits to make it more difficult to vote, an intensification of the GOP's legacy of suppressive tactics. Before the election, Trump plotted to block a legitimate vote count, and he spent the months following November 3rd trying to steal the election. He lost with lawsuits and conspiracy theories. Where's my tinfoil hat? Pressure on state and local officials, and finally summoning his army of supporters to the January 6th rally that ended in deadly violence at the Capitol. So once again, we've already heard about the woman that got shot, and yes, there were some people who died and got trampled on, but come the fuck on, stop pretending this was some kind of fucking insurrection or coup. That's such a farce. And come on. The reality speaks a little bit louder than the rhetoric, right? The democracy campaigners watched with alarm. Every week we felt like we were in a struggle to try and pull off this election without the country going through a real dangerous moment of unraveling, says former GOP Representative Zach Wamp, a Trump supporter who helped coordinate a bipartisan election protection council. Trump support. If you're a Trump supporter, why are you fucking selling the man up the river? It's like you're telling me that it's a Trump supporter who tried to fuck over a Trump. Sounds like he was just one of your insiders, right? As far as I'm concerned, we can look back and say that this went pretty well, but it was not all clear in September and October that was going to be the case. Yeah, Trump supporter. Okay, this is the inside story of a conspiracy. They even admit it. See, they're just gaslighting the fuck out of you, man. They've got so much power and it's so entrenched and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So they're willing to do this stuff. And they're willing to just poke you right in the eye and shove it right in your face like, oh, what are you going to do about it? We've already seen that your insurrection or the most you have on offer is what? Send a bunch of losers in there to do nothing, right? What are you going to do about it? With the entire state apparatus at her disposal. What are you going to do about it? That's what they're saying. It's like, come at me, bitch. That's what they're saying. Come at me. What are you going to do about it? Yeah, I'm admitting I fucked you over. Yeah, I'm admitting it's a total coup and we completely destroyed any pretense of the will of the people, or fuck the will of the people, respecting your freedoms and liberties, because that's even more important than the will of the people, because the will of the people, who's to say the will of the people might pivot towards the destructive measures, right? Looks like it's taking place in 2021, but at the very least, I think we should all as human beings, no matter what team they align with or what side of the political divide they associate with, someone wants to take away your freedoms, you really should properly expose these people as authoritarians. But nope, not today. They're good peeps and doing the job of sacrificing the individual for the greater good. For the greater good, folks. It's for the greater good. It's just a mask. Remember that fucking just a mask. Don't be a jerk, guys. just get in line. Just conform. Just a mask. It's just a vaccine. It's just an election. It's just a coup. Shut up, sit down, get in line, and obey. Right? Dang. It is a story of an unprecedented, creative, and determined campaign whose success also reveals how close the nation came to disaster. Every attempt to interfere with the proper outcome of the election was defeated, says Ian Bassin, co-founder of Protect Democracy. I love that. So Orwellian. Always Orwellian, right? A nonpartisan rule of law advocacy group. A nonpartisan. I mean, just the fact, think about how they fucking, their opponents, how do they label their opponents? Far right, conspiracy theorists. But if you agree or align with them, well, you're a co-founder of Protect Democracy and you're a nonpartisan rule of law advocate is what you are. Sounds all good, right? There's nothing bad about that. Come on. It literally is exactly set up to make you think exactly that. But it's massively important for the country to understand that it didn't happen accidentally. The system didn't work magically. Democracy is not self-executing. Really? Democracy is not self-executing. Well, let me think about that. So democracy is supposed to be the pretense of the majority of the mob who gets to rule and the majority gets to vote on the, it's not self-executing. So you mean you have to force people to vote, and I guess you not just force them to vote, but in a certain way, right? Because how would it, had democracy ever unfold if you didn't tell people how to vote? I'm sorry, folks. I just can't keep a straight face for very long, even trying to play that game, right? It's a fucking joke. I mean, come on. Democracy is not self-executing, right? I can't think critically. I can't vote unless somebody holds my hand and controls it throughout the entire process. Okay, that's what democracy is, apparently. Somebody's got to control you. Otherwise, democracy just doesn't work. Right? Come on. Is this not golden shit, folks? Anyways, let me check. Oh, shit. Hey, what's going on, Steve? Hey, by the way, I sent you a message on our back and forth there on Proton. I think Proton, right? Yeah, Proton Mail. I sent you a message because, yeah, I definitely want to bring you on Tim was great. Tim was awesome. After this is done, just go back. It was the first hour. Tim had to get off there. It was about an hour, right? Hour and probably 20 minutes or so. He was on for the first hour and 20 minutes there, Stuart. But yeah, it was Tim did some great contributions and definitely go back after the stream's done. But yeah, I don't know if you've already replied on my my message to you there over on Proton. But yeah, let's do a collab together, Steve. You seem like a really reasonable guy, and I would love to I'd love to do a collab with you. It's been a while. Well, I've never done a collab with you, so I would like to try that out. So let me know. Hey, what's going on, TJ? Personally, I am all once seal is breached. We've gone way past the swamp. Good show today. The interview is good. Right on. That's great to know there. G Rich. Yeah, the old China butt swab. Yeah. Coming soon. Right? No, I don't know. I don't know that. My in-laws voted for Biden. Oh shit. Are you serious? Oh damn, Anarcha Riga. I know you're probably in the same position I am. Just try to get along with everyone. Try to be reasonable. And then there's these fucking people that just such ideologues. Like, I don't know what you do. I feel for you, Anarcha. Well, I mean, yeah, we've been fellow travelers for a while now, haven't we? Oh yeah, you didn't know? I seems a bit strange with him. Oh, you guys talking amongst each other. Anyways, back down. Let's get back to the stream or the. Yeah, let me leave this on. Actually, these on here. Let me read a little bit more here. Oh, here we go. Yeah. That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told. Even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. They were not rigging the election. They were fortifying it. And they believe the public needs to understand the system's fragility in order to ensure that democracy in America endures. So they're saying that the system is very fragile, right? Which I guess is why they were so easily capable and willing to completely fuck it up and game it so that they benefited as a consequence of that. But I guess they're warning you there that look how weak and vulnerable the election system is in this country. Because look, we gamed the living fuck out of it and we still won. So what do you think of those apples, right? No? Hey, at the very least, I gotta say, I'm gaining a little bit more respect today for these lefties than I do for the right wingers, because the right wingers today seem to be not able to punch above their weight or their weight or their weight. Really weak, really inept, and constantly groveling or begging people to respect them. And whereas these people are like, I'm fucking doing whatever. Fuck you. I'm kicking your ass. And I'm breaking every law in the book and every rule that's ever been implemented to do it. How do you like those apples? And people are saying, well, I got to tell you, I admire your strength, right? And I got to tell you, even myself, I got to tell you, these people, there is some small part of me. And I mean, as a libertarian, I get to, or someone that's very competitive, right? There is a part of me that generally respects, right? People who aren't cowards, right? Who are this brave and courageous. And I got to tell you, the left are very brave today. They're willing to say, yeah, sure, we fucking set it all up so we were going to win. What the fuck are you going to do about it? You basically showed up and didn't do anything. Took a couple photo ops at the national capitol, right? And that was it. So you're a bunch of weak, wimpy type of fucking losers. We totally destroyed you, right? And there's not a thing you fuckers are going to do about it. And the right, their counterparts are like, I guess you're right. So, I mean, like I say, I don't know. It is what it is, but sad folks that the right has become so weak and so inept. I mean, if you're a right winger today, why do you think I don't ever want to identify as right or as a right winger today? Hell no. For me to identify anywhere near the right wing today would suggest that I'm a fucking coward or a conformist or unwilling to stand in defense of any principles or any. Hell no. I fucking conservatives. Listen, I got to tell you, and you've probably heard me say this before. If you fucking hold a gun to my head today and you said it's the left or the right, you pick one or the other. As much as I despise and loathe the left for their ineptness and their fucking parasitic ways in terms of their productivity and their or not creativity, but their productivity, right? What they bring to the table for the most part. I have a tremendous amount of respect for their strength and their resiliency and their courage of their convictions. Whereas the right today, like people like Andrew Scheer, Aaron O'Toole, the leader of the Conservative Party, is like, I want to be as close to Trudeau as I can. I want to be even better. I want to be an even better representation of Trudeau than even Trudeau. It's like, well, that's your game. That's what you're trying to sell the Canadian people. Well, you're never going to fucking beat Trudeau. First of all, you're way fucking uglier. You're fucking older. And you're not even near as stop trying to be Trudeau and pretend that you'll ever be as good as he is at being Trudeau. That's the thing with the right these days. These people are fucking weird as fuck. I don't know what's wrong with them. Psychological. Maybe you're just maybe some of these right wingers today were truly generally just way too abusive to too many people in their fucking lives, and nobody has any respect for them at all anymore. I believe that probably is the case and might be the truth. So maybe the right really genuinely needs to suffer a whole lot more. I'm okay with that. Because once again, I don't identify with either side. And let the right today, especially the fact they're so fucking willing to not even stand, to not even try to attempt to stand in defense of fucking liberties. Like, yeah. I hope the left completely kicks their fucking ass. So bad. Well, they are. And they're dominating continually. Rightfully so. The winners are, the true winners are truly winning today in terms of the left, right. Now, the proper winners, libertarians, like, no, you fuckers, the only way you could ever win against me is by tripping me, right? But I understand why you're dominating the right, because the right are just as incompetent and inept, or even more inept than their leftist counterparts. That's just truth. Sure, I'll get people that'll hate me and will turn away from my stream right now because how dare you insult my side of the political divide? Oh, fuck you. See how wimpy you are? Well, you gonna turn? Well, you gonna cry because I insulted your political party? You want to run away? Eh? See, I've just proved my point. Fuck off, right? Sometime in the fall of 2019, Mike Podhorzer became convinced the election was headed for disaster and determined to protect it. This was not his usual purview. For nearly a quarter century, Podhorzer, senior advisor to the president of the AFL-CIO, the nation's largest union federation, has marshaled the latest tactics and data to help its favored candidates win elections. Unassuming and professorial, he isn't the sort of hair-gelled political strategist who shows up on cable news. Hey, don't make fun of fucking hair gel. I'm just kidding. Among Democratic insiders, he's known as the wizard behind some of the biggest advances in political technology in recent decades. A group of liberal strategists he brought together in the early 2000s led to the creation of the Analyst Institute, a secretive firm that applies scientific methods to political campaigns. He was also involved in the founding of Catalyst, the flagship progressive data company. The endless chatter in Washington about political strategy, Podhorzer believes, has little to do with how change really gets made. My basic take on politics is that it's all pretty obvious if you don't overthink it or swallow the prevailing framework whole. He once wrote. After that, just relentlessly identify your assumptions and challenge them. Podhorzer applies that approach to everything when he coaches his now adult son's Little League team in the DC suburbs. He trained the boys not to swing at most pitches, a tactic that infuriated both their and their opponents' parents, but won the team a series of championships. Okay, Trump's election in 2016, credited in part to his unusual strength among the sort of blue-collar white voters who once dominated the AFL-CIO, prompted Podhorzer to question his assumptions about voter behavior. He began circulating weekly number-crunching memos to a small circle of allies and hosting strategy sessions in D.C. But when he began to worry about the election itself, he didn't want to seem paranoid. It was only after months of research that he introduced his concerns in his newsletter in October of 2019. The usual tools of data, analytics, and polling would not be sufficient in a situation where the president was trying to disrupt the election, he wrote. Most of our planning takes us through election day, he noted. We are not prepared for the two most likely outcomes: Trump losing and refusing to concede, and Trump winning the Electoral College despite losing the popular vote by corrupting the voting process in key states. We desperately need to systematically red team this election so that we can anticipate and plan for the worst we know will be coming our way. It turned out Podhorzer wasn't the only one thinking in these terms. He began to hear from others eager to join forces. The Fight Back Table, a coalition of resistance organizations, had begun scenario planning around the potential for a contested election, gathering liberal activists at the local and national level into what they called the Democracy Defense Coalition. Voting rights and civil rights organizations were raising alarms. A group of former elected officials was researching emergency powers they feared Trump might exploit. Protect Democracy was assembling a bipartisan election crisis task force. It turned out that once you said it out loud, people agreed. Podhorzer says, and it started building momentum. He spent months pondering scenarios and talking to experts. It wasn't hard to find liberals who saw Trump as a dangerous dictator, but Podhorzer was careful to steer clear of hysteria. What he wanted to know was not how American democracy was dying, but how it might be kept alive. The chief difference between the U.S. and countries that lost their grip on democracy, he concluded, was that America's decentralized election system couldn't be rigged in one fell swoop. That presented an opportunity to shore it up. Anyways, folks, I'll probably end up doing an entire, this is a long article. Tell you the truth, rather than get you folks to have to read this entire article, what I'll probably end up doing, I think I will. And it's definitely something that's worthwhile doing. So maybe I'll just sit and do a whole standalone video where I read this in its entirety so that it's in audio form at the very least, because I think most people out there, and I'll make sure that I edit out any of the mistakes I made. Because when I'm doing it live like this, as you can see, I get into where I make a mistake while I'm reading or something and didn't catch the right word or didn't phrase it properly, and I have to go back and correct myself because I am one of those people that I like to perfect myself as best I can. But anyways, yeah, I'll probably do it as a standalone video, read it, edit out all the mistakes, and then upload it as a standalone video so you can use the audio aspects of me reading from it, any portion of it, for yourself. I think that's what I've seen out there. There is a void. Nobody, as from what I've noticed so far, has done this entirely, read it in audio form so that you can share this in audio to other people rather than them read it. Because think of it. Do you know how many people are in this country? I mean, half of the population. That's the other thing we got to remember, folks. Half of the population in this country are illiterate. And if they're illiterate, a lot of them obviously can't read, right? So maybe it's beneficial for people like myself. It's a little extra work, but it's okay. I don't mind. And thanks to you folks that don't donate to me generously from time to time. Matter of fact, I'll take those generous donations. I've had a few you fine folks who have generously donated. I think I was up to $180 for the month, for last month. Maybe I'll take a bit of that and I'll use that and say, you know what? They're paying you to do that, right? And if I'm being paid, I'm fucking great. And man, I'm amazing. If I'm getting paid to do something, I'll ask anyone that's ever employed me what my work ethic is, especially if you're paying me for it, right? Really, really good. But yeah, so that's what I'll probably do is I'll read this entirety in its entirety. It's a long one. It might be, I don't know how long it's going to take to read it, but that's what I'm going to do. But thanks for all you folks that did join the stream today. And thanks to Tim Moen. And I seen John Hicks was in the chat. I even offered him if he wanted to join it, but I didn't want to get into, if you get too many on the stream, maybe not as conducive with allowing people to have their say. Well, no, it actually is more conducive with 11 people. That's the whole point of it. But anyways, sometimes you can overtalk each other and not get through things, or the topic or the subject matter moves all over there, as I kind of showed earlier. But that's usually a lot of times might even be my own fault. But anyways, thanks to you folks that did join the stream. Murder by Injection. Stas Mullins wrote a great book, Murder by Injection. Well, thanks for mentioning that there, Steve. Just going to screw up. My family's in the same boat. I can't explain it in scientific terms, so I go to the videos you can't see. Anyways, yeah, Steve. I'm just looking for Steve there because show her those videos of people convulsing, get paralyzed. I missed it. How is 10? Okay, so yeah, so we're back up. All right. Anyway, so like I say, thanks for all you folks that did join the stream. And I've got lots more on the table as of yet, folks. Still got to get my internet situation. I do have my internet back, but I'm having further issues trying to get on the Starlink. Well, I've already emailed it. I'm trying to get out there so that I can get Starlink so I can start uploading my videos and live streams and doing this on multiple platforms. Because that's the thing. What prevents me from doing mostly what my online activities on social alternative platforms is it's just my internet broadband won't allow me to upload to multiple spaces or multiple platforms simultaneously. Or maybe at some point in time, I'll just stop uploading to these platforms and focus on some of these other alternative platforms that at the very least respect me and don't try to suppress me. Okay, let me stop this. I don't have the words to describe it. Google threw it down. All right. Anyways, folks, thanks to you folks that did join the stream. I'll see you in the next one. Skinny Libertarian, and I love liberty.